Thank you, Ian and Debbie. Ukiah Unified School District agenda for our regular school board meeting of October 8th, 2020. We are meeting via video conference to allow for more public participation. We are meeting as authorized by the governor's emergency executive order during the pandemic. So we will go to our regular agenda, starting with the flag salute. We will see it on the screen, and we'll be able to say, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Reporting out from closed session. Nothing to report out other than we looked at the goals of the superintendent for the school year 2021. We discussed the various goals in addition to the strategic plan, and we confirmed them. Unfortunately, it's quite lovely, I must say, not to have any expulsions. Lovely. Is there a motion to approve the agenda, pulling items E4 and E5 by request of staff?
I'd like to make a move to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Trustee Barrett seconds. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next, we have our student advisor report, Mason Hoppy.
All right, hi.
Hi.
So, to get started, many normal SAT dates have been canceled due to the coronavirus. So because of this, the high school is hosting 2 special SAT events on October 14th and 27th for high schoolers who have not yet had the chance to take the test or who have and wish to improve their score. The Interact Club at Ukiah High is helping the local Rotary Club host a series of drive-in movies that are happening across the month to give families a safe activity and to help raise money. The blood drive will be happening as normal, but adjusted to follow state and CDC guidelines, and that will be taking place this December 16th. The Christmas effort is again happening this year. Leadership is helping to volunteer, and we're working to find a way to continue the toy drive within the high school with the adoptive family for classrooms. Our mock trial has finalized their team lineup, and we'll start having weekly meetings starting next Wednesday. Our Science Olympiad team will have its first competition this weekend. It's an online invitational, and it's mostly just for practice so they can get used to it, but they are competing against other schools. And that's it.
Well, considering the situation we're in, that's quite a few activities. Great. I heard something that's going on with the SAT test. I don't know if you know or not, Mason, but that some schools are saying that it's not an equitable test, and so they've dropped it as a requirement.
So there actually has been a discussion for a long time now that it's not an equitable test. And then with coronavirus hitting and a lot of people not being able to take it, there are a lot of colleges that are no longer accepting it, or like, for example, UCs, they will accept it, but it's not required anymore. So it's really depending on the college, but it is still required for a few colleges. So
Is that the same for the ACT?
I think the ACT is the same. Yeah, I haven't heard as much, but yes.
Interesting. Okay, any questions for Mason? Okay, thank you so much for coming. public comment for items not on the agenda? We have received 2 public comments.
Trustee Mulgard, we actually have received 3.
Excellent. Okay, go ahead and give us the first public comment.
We are admitting Leslie Barkley.
Okay, Ms. Barkley, please go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Board President Mulgard, Ukiah Unified School District trustees, Superintendent Cuban, and all the members of the Ukiah Unified School District community. It is a pleasure to be able to address you tonight with some positive, uplifting news. The Sunel Valley Academy Charter Petition has been submitted for your consideration, providing you with the means to bring some hope and light to the greater Hopland community. I will not go into the details of the petition, as you will have time to peruse its contents. What I will say is this: I have lived in Hopland for nearly 38 years. Until its closing, Hopland School was the heart of the community. Most community events were held at the school site, and community information was often disseminated through notes sent home to school families and by word of mouth. Without the school as the center of the community, spreading the word about a possible charter school was a daunting task. Social media played a role in informing parents and community members, but so did old-fashioned door-to-door canvassing by committee volunteers and word of mouth. After canvassing much of Hopland, I'm amazed and heartened at the support, hope, and joy talk of a Hopland charter school engenders in the residents of Hopland. Even knowing that bringing education to Hopland students in Hopland is a dream yet to be realized, Hopland residents and businesses are eager to pledge their financial, technical, and cultural support to the project. In these tumultuous, divisive, and emotionally charged times, the possibility of bringing a public school to Hopland children provides a positive rallying point for the extended community and a platform for diverse groups to work together to build a brighter future for Hopland children. Focusing on bringing public education back to Hopland has reignited community spirit. Every community member I spoke with asked where the school would be located, and many referred to the old school site. While that possibility is part of a different discussion, you as trustees have the opportunity to ensure the highest and best use of the Hopland site is honored in conjunction with the outpouring of community support we have garnered. I could go on, as you well know, but I will close here. I ask you to read this charter school petition with clear eyes and open hearts, knowing it was developed with best intentions for and input from our community at large. Look at this petition for the strengths and possibilities, imagining the world we can create for our children to develop the 21st century skills, strengths, and knowledge they will need to succeed in an ever-changing world. Help us show our children that, even in difficult times, we can all work together and brighten our collective future. Thank you for your time and the work you do for children. And that is it.
Thank you so much. And we look forward to reading your petition.
Well, thank you for listening. Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Leslie.
We are now entering Lillian Thies.
Ms. Thies, go ahead. We can hear you. Ms. Thies? Ian?
She is unmuted. I believe she's there. She's in our meeting.
Okay, Ms. Thies, we're waiting for your public comment. Are you ready? Ms. Thies, we still can't hear you. Could you be muted by any chance? Okay, well, let's go on to our, Oh, there we go. There we go.
Okay. Yeah.
Great. Okay, please speak up and we'll listen to your comment.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lily Anthes. I am in 7th grade and I go to Pomalita Middle School here in Ukiah. I feel that going to school is important because we need to socialize with our peers, and kids with special needs need more one-on-one than online because they can't really do online. Online also can cause more symptoms of depression. In the mornings, I feel it's really hard to get motivated, and it's hard to find the perfect learning environment and really hard to stay focused. I feel like we have to stay in a little room for like the whole entire day when we're in school. So kids are usually isolated. I also think that single parents are also having a really hard time right now because they have to go to work in order to pay bills, but they also have their kids at home trying to do school. So they have to find a babysitter or tutor or something, and that also costs them extra money. The good things about Zoom is still being able to see people on the camera and hear their voices, and at least being able to try to learn some stuff. And another thing that that kind of frustrates me is not being able to meet our teachers and interact with them in person, because you don't really get to experience their personality and how they would teach you in real life instead of over a screen.
Mm-hmm.
And being on the screen the whole time gives you really bad headaches and hurts your eyes. And I got like blue light glasses, but they still don't really work that well. My eyes still hurt throughout the day. And it's hard just sitting in a chair. So I try to go on runs every now and then in my breaks, but it's still really hard to stay focused and motivated, and trying to find the want to learn. I also think that there's a lot of distractions at your home, even though like when you try to block them out, there's always just something that you have that will distract you. Like for some people, it's their cell phones or pets or just stuff in their room that they just want to use or something. And it's really hard to take in what the teacher's trying to learn because you're not really in the right environment and you're just in the screen and you're like, as I said, you're really distracted. So it's super hard to actually learn something. And we're just going out of the books every single day and then going through the books and then taking tests on the computer. And so I feel that like it's really hard. And I FaceTime my peers, and they also agree that it's super hard to stay motivated and actually wanting to learn. I also think that being at your house on the screen kind of frustrates you because I noticed that when I'm at school, I'm way happier than when I'm home. Because when I'm home, I don't know why, but it just like kind of changes my attitude about school and grades and like towards my parents and everything. It just changes my whole entire attitude and the way I kind of talk to everybody and do everything. But I also think that I'm really grateful that I have teachers and parents and siblings that are willing to help in order to help me learn and try to understand the concept of math and social studies and everything. Like, I'm really grateful for the teachers and taking their time and being on Zoom all day as well and doing all these things for us. But I just think that going to school kind of just gives you the feeling that you can be around your peers and like interact with them. And I was thinking that we could wear masks to school and hand sanitize when we go in and out of the classroom, and wipe down our own desks, and we wouldn't be able to bring like our own lunches to school, just in case we like brought in extra germs. The cafeteria could just do like bagged lunches with peanut butter and jellies inside of them, because I also asked my friends and peers if they liked that idea, and they said that they would like it way better than going to school and going to online school and just being on the computer. And I wasn't even allowed, I couldn't even use my own computer because Zoom would always crash. It wouldn't let me on my own meetings. So I had to use my house computer. So it was also really hard to connect my school account and everything and be able to do everything with my class on my home computer.
Okay, well, thank you, Ms. Thies. We appreciate hearing from an actual student rather than just reports. It's always great to hear it in person. And all those ideas you have about how we can stay safe, be ready to use them, because as soon as it is safe to go back in the classroom, I don't think we're going to go back and have it look exactly like it used to. I think we're probably going to be going back with things like masks and things like that. So I'm glad you're already thinking ahead to what that will be like. We don't know yet. We have to, wait until all the signs are right for us to be able to go back so that both staff and students are safe. But we're hoping it will be as soon as possible, because we certainly agree with you that everybody's happier when they get to be together and learning and teaching together. Yeah. One phone number I want to make sure that you have is the phone number for any technology issue you have, because if there's something going on with either your internet connection or your Chromebook, we can fix that, because there could be that somebody else in your family needs their home computer.
Okay.
So the easy number is 472-5003. And that's any question, and all of those who might be watching, like there's a lot of people watching. If anyone is watching and they would like that number, that's the problem-solving number for distance learning. So 472-5003, and they can connect you and give you the information technology department to help you with that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming to our meeting. We appreciate hearing from you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, have a good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Fabulous. And we have one more speaker.
Yes, I'm admitting Wendy Morale now.
Okay, great.
Okay, Wendy is admitted. She needs to unmute herself though.
Okay. Wendy, when you've unmuted, we're ready to receive your public comment.
Hi, thank you very much. And thank you for all you do. And it was wonderful hearing from that young woman.
Wasn't it? Yeah. And what would you like to address us about tonight?
Tonight, I would like to, I did.
We can hear you.
Hi.
Hi, we can hear you.
Great. I am in Hopland, and I just wanted to say that I was very excited to find out about the charter school, and would really think that that would be terrific for our community, and would hope that you look at that petition with open hearts and open minds, as Leslie said. Our community really does need that heart center back. And I do think it would be wonderful for kids to not face an hour-and-a-half bus ride a day, even in normal times. I think it would really improve the quality of their education if they were able to have that. And I think I heard a little bit about the plans, and they sound just fantastic. I also just want to give my support to every educator and every student and every administrator out there for what we're all going through together. And my heart and love is with you guys too.
Thank you, Ms. Morelli. There will be a public hearing about the charter plan over the next month or so. So keep an eye on Facebook, or you can call the superintendent's office and we can tell you that date. We're probably setting the date at the end of this meeting, and that will give you an opportunity to see even more of the plan.
Terrific. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Have we received any other public comment?
We have not.
Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to our employee reports. Ukiah Teachers Association. Jensen Henderson, do we have you tonight? Great.
Yes, I am here. Good evening, everyone. I serve as the secretary for the Ukiah Teachers Association. Teachers have been working diligently to make sure all students are learning, and UTA leadership is very proud of our teachers who are learning and working along with our students. Yeah, we're learning with them. It continues to be a big learning curve for staff and students. Teachers are checking in with students and families to make sure social and emotional needs are being met as best as possible during this difficult time. We continue to have our rep council meetings monthly via Zoom. All our school sites are involved, as now more than ever, communication is vital to everyone. Our members appreciate the work being done by all involved with the collaborative committee on reopening schools. And we look forward to hearing more information on that as the meetings commence. October is a long month for everyone with no breaks, and with the hard work being done by all teachers, as well as the emotional strain, we want to make sure that our teachers are supported and being able to support their own needs as well as the needs of their students. We look forward to creative solutions that administration can bring forward to make sure everyone can remain healthy, both physically and emotionally. UTA also looks forward to the Equity Committee convening and the work that will come from that committee to improve access to quality learning opportunities for all of our students. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And just if people are listening and they don't know what the collaborative meetings are, is that was a team of teachers and administrators and CSEA staff that we're getting together to see what different models will look like as the community becomes safer and our virus level drops. And so those meetings were at the beginning, at the end of last semester, and then now they're restarting now as well. And my understanding now is that the superintendent is going to send out notes from those meetings so that everybody is keeping up on those and staying current. So thank you. Anything else for anybody? Okay, we do not have a report tonight from CSEA, but we do next then have our leadership team report with Tom Rawls from Nokomis.
Well, good evening, board and everyone else attending. I think I have the power to share my screen. I do. So I just kind of wanted to update you a little bit of what we're doing at Nokomis. And my objective tonight is to update you on our goals that we have for our site. So even with distance learning, you know, our goals have stayed the same, but I wanted to show this little illustration of, you know, we had a kindergartner and all the kindergartners kind of got this situation where they had lemons and the teachers came up with an idea, well, let's make lemonade. And I also wanted to share this diagram of success. We know that we got lots going on that maybe isn't going the way we want it, but we are having some success. And I kind of want to dwell on some of those things tonight. So like I mentioned, our goals are the same at Nokomis. You know, we're still trying to provide a comprehensive integrated system of curriculum, instruction, and assessment to improve the learning and teaching process. Obviously, with distance learning, this is quite challenging, but I think, as Jensen mentioned, we're standing up to the goal. We started the year emphasizing with relationships and participation. You know, at the beginning of the year, the teachers had the opportunity to meet their students one-on-one, and soon they will be meeting one-on-one with the parents at parent-teacher conferences. The teachers are using multiple platforms, using Google Classroom. At Nokomis, we're using PBIS reward system to, you know, still stay up on that social and emotional piece, rewarding the positive behavior that we do see in the classroom. We're also expanding the use of our accelerated reader and read live programs using our paraprofessionals. So like the hot reads, the live reads are being conducted in Zoom rooms with paraprofessionals. We still have our response to intervention groups where we are targeting skills that students need. And with the California Principal Support Network, we're still working on our PLC effectiveness and looking at those essential standards. You know, right now is a prime time to be looking at essential standards. What do we really need our kids to know when they get done with each grade? Our second goal that we're still working on, we're working on providing a facility that is safe, efficient, and supports students in their educational efforts. So if we look at our multi-tiered system of support, we're still having a tier 1. We start every morning at Nokomis with a 8 o'clock class meeting to kind of work towards those social and emotional needs where the students and the teachers are building their relationships. Something that I think that we did very well that has supported our students is that we place a second adult in every class meeting. And if we had a student that wasn't attending, that adult was reaching out to the family to see what support we could provide to get the student online. We were able to fix several problems that way with technology or just learning how to use the platforms early on in the beginning of the year. Another thing that I think that worked well at Nokomis is we have a school-wide lunch. All the grade levels have the same lunch. We have regularly scheduled material pickups, and we are rewarding students with ICANNs, which actually stands for I Cooperate at Nokomis, through our digital PBIS system. We're also having monthly awards for academic awards, and then we use that time where the students can enter a raffle to redeem their PBIS points with awards that are won during the raffle. We're having our monthly tier 1 meetings to try to keep the students engaged as much as possible on the tier 1 basis. Our tier 2, there are a lot of challenges this year with keeping students engaged. So we are meeting weekly. And I'd like to announce that we do have a new family liaison that is working out very well, and she's a member of our tier 2 meetings. So at our tier 2 meetings, we have our family community liaison, we have our student success coordinator, we have our counselor and our reading intervention teacher and myself. And we meet weekly to see how we can provide tier 2 intervention to the students that are struggling. One of the things that we've done over 40 home visits at Nokomis between the attendance secretary, the family community liaison, myself, and the counselor. We're we're supporting kids with check in, check out early in the morning with the counselor to kind of to ease them into the day if sees anything that the students are struggling need. And we're also starting our social groups. And the other thing that we're still trying to provide opportunities for parents and communities members to develop partnerships with Nokomis and ensure regular communication with all stakeholders. One of the things I'm eager to announce is that tomorrow we are opening a tech hub. We're partnering with Pomalita. So we're going to start having families that have students enrolled at both Pomalita and Nokomis on site in the cafeteria. They will still log into their online classrooms. However, if they're a Pomalita student and they are within walking distance, the idea is that they can help walk the younger siblings to the school and use our facility for the day to log into their classrooms. I think another positive thing that has happened with this distance learning is that we've expanded the use of our Aries communication. And one of the things that we have found is that parents tend to, most parents tend to use the direct message system the best. We still use the robocalls, but the direct messages seem to get the most results for us. Our PTO is still active. And in fact, on October 23rd, they are hosting a virtual assembly with Corey the Dribbler, who is an ex-Harlem Globetrotter. And he's bringing his 4 R's of ready, respectful, responsible. And the 4th R is the power of reading. So we're looking forward to that. Areas to improve on, I think, is that we can use our website a little bit better, and we're developing a team of folks 3 deep that will have responsibilities with the website. So, do we have any questions?
Yeah, Tom, what is a social hub? Is that the term you used?
Tech hub. So it's
well, there's the tech hub and then there's the social group, and I didn't know what either. I wanted more detail.
Well, we will develop a social group in the tech hub. So we'll keep one cohort of kids in the cafeteria. We're using families that are enrolled in Pomalita and Nokomis, and we're starting small and seeing how it goes.
And do you have hygiene protocols?
We have everything in place. The students will be expected to wear masks. Staffs will be wearing masks. We have plexiglass for the staff member in the cafeteria. I think we have everything in place we need.
Great, good. Okay. Trustee Fernandez.
Thanks for that presentation. That was great. How's the attendance looking at your school over the last 7 or 8 weeks?
Our attendance is looking good. Where we need to improve upon is our completion of assignments. A little bit, we can get students attending, and as part of our tier 2 team is looking at how can we get students to complete more assignments.
Okay, thank you.
Has there been a big demand for wanting to participate in the tech hub?
Well, we're starting with the families that are the most needy with the attendance from Pomalita and ourselves, and so we're going to. That's the way we're addressing it, and that that if they're living within walking distance, because we're not providing transportation or anything at this time.
I see. Okay. Well, great. Well, we look forward to hearing about how that goes.
Okay.
All experiments are welcome. All safe experiments are welcome. Any other questions for Tom? All right. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Now going on to our educational program, the distance learning update. Katie Summer and Superintendent Cuban.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent. Tonight we're here to give you the October distance learning update, and I'm going to share my screen now. And Anne, is everything okay? I've been blocked out. Can you see?
I can see you perfectly.
Okay, very good.
And now we can see your screen perfectly.
Okay, great. Sorry. So we, as you know, we started school on August 17th, and we are currently in our 8th week of distance learning. And as many of the things that Tom shared, people are working very hard to provide the best program that we can, although we know that we would prefer to have our students back in the classroom. Everybody's working really hard to make it a good experience for students. So we want to just give you a quick update on what our administration, both site and district level administration, is doing. We are continuing to do our parent check-in phone calls and our classroom visits. We've made 585 calls to receive feedback, and we've had, this was as of last week, we've had 524 classroom visits. So lots of check-ins on that.
Katie,
Yeah.
I'll just chime in real quick. The calls, they're not just calls, they're home visits, they're outreach parent contacts. So expands beyond calls there, not just phone calls.
And Deb, if you, I can't always see you, so if you need to chime in, please feel free.
Okay.
So we wanted to share with you tonight the initial results from our Hanover survey, our district operations survey around distance learning. And this is preliminary. We just closed the window on the survey on the 29th. And then Hanover has put it into a dashboard, and we've been learning how to use that dashboard system. So tonight I'll be sharing some of the initial results, and if there are, as we go through the slides, if there are any further analyses, and that's one of our next steps, but if there are any further analyses that you'd like to see, please let me know as we're going through the slides. It's a lot of data, and but it has some really good information for us. So we had 2,199 respondents, 1,104 parents, 325 staff, and 770 student respondents.
And Katie, was that sent to everybody, all grades?
Oh, so it was sent to all parents, all staff, but students in grades 6 through 12. So our
Okay.
middle high school students.
So can you go back one
Sure.
slide? So the 770 students is what percentage response then if we're only taking 6th through 12th?
We have in grades 6 through 12, we have about 2,900 students. When we first got our number of responses, we did ask Hanover Research, was this a large enough sample size? Because we were deciding whether to leave the survey open longer. And, and was this typical? And she said, this is a very typical percentage, and that it was a representative sample size. So
about 30%.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we moved forward with sharing the results and closing the window.
Thank you.
There's two, and these were all self-selected, but we had 672 Latinx respondents. And then you can see the other breakdown of the number of respondents. And if there are other ways that you'd like to see the response, it can be broken down by school, by student, parent, staff, by free and reduced lunch, which is self-selected, and a couple other ways. So there's some other data that we could look at.
So board members, would you like to see that broken down that way as well?
I wasn't clear. Are you, Katie, are you saying you can do that right this second, or you can do this?
No, but we could get more information to you, because this is really our preliminary look at this data. So we can give you more information on who took the survey.
Oh,
It's,
okay. I mean, I'll wait till a little further in the presentation, but lumping stakeholder groups that are completely different perspectives together doesn't really, I think you probably lose some things that way, but let's carry on. Sorry.
sure. So we have given this is our initial district survey, and within that, the first two slides that you're going to see are part of what they call the pulse survey. So we'll be giving that out more frequently. It's a shorter, truncated survey. And these are the questions that'll be asked again as we are kind of checking in how things are going. I did break this out by parents, staff, and students. So when the first question really was looking at which of the following should Ukiah Unified focus on for improvement, and the top two of those I highlighted in yellow. So for parents, you can see that it was academic needs and social emotional needs. For staff, it was access to tools and technology and social emotional needs. What we found very interesting was for students, it was social emotional needs, but communication was a higher area. So we're going to break that data down to kind of look more deeply. There's some more questions that we can look at to really try to hash out that communication piece. But overall, when you combine all the groups together, the academic needs and social emotional needs were the highest areas that people felt were needed for improvement. The next part of what we call the pulse survey, the overall perceptions and priorities, are how satisfied are you with the following? So this is on a 5-point scale, and the percentages showing people that are somewhat or very satisfied. And so you can see we broke this down by parents, staff, and students. In the green are the highest satisfied percentages, anything above the 73%. So you can see access to basic resources, access to tools and technologies, school supports for instructional staff. And then you can see some of the greatest areas of needs, again, are both staff and student social emotional needs. And, you know, I think the student that addressed us today, you know, is talking about some of those needs that we have socially and emotionally.
This is a slide page that I would want broken down by both free and reduced and not as self-identified.
Right. Okay. So the next slides, like you've said before, are actually, there are some slides that are staff only, but these are grouped together. So that's where there's really a lot of data. So that's where we could break this down more, but we wanted to just share some of the initial conglomerated data. So access to tools and technology, you can see that we still have a need for hotspots and internet access. And some of the issues that we have, we know are that people have access, but it's not always great. Like that student shared with us that there's challenges with coming in and out of meetings and getting kicked off. So I think that's part of the issue.
Katie, sorry, just because it was relevant to your point there. I had heard through the grapevine that there's a waiting list for hotspots. Is that true?
There still is. So we ordered, and the reason is we're waiting for more of the hotspots to come. And many people have access, they just don't have good access right now. And we're hoping the hotspots help with that access. But there is still a waiting list because we're still waiting on some coming.
And Katie, I'll just add, we ordered those both Chromebooks and hotspots quite some time ago. I was on a call yesterday facilitated by Senator McGuire, with the California Department of Education and superintendents from Humboldt and Mendocino County, talking about our challenges with internet connectivity. And so the state, CDE, evidently has a handle on over 600,000 Chromebooks. And so I sent an email to this person at CDE yesterday with what we were waiting on. I'm hoping to hear some more. I believe that the hotspots that were on back order are supposed to come this week. So, and we're finding that we certainly have some families who have no internet access because of where they live, but we're also finding families with multiple children in the household who are, the parents are also working from home, that it's just not enough to handle the load of 4 or 5 children in the household. So we're seeing a lot of requests for hotspots based on that. It's one of the reasons why we are beginning to start technology hubs in our schools, like Tom talked about. And we're trying to collaborate between schools so that a whole family could possibly be served. So anyway, we are still working on it. I know the state is experimenting with a variety of technology platforms that are available out there. It is definitely a challenge, especially for our families who live way outside of, in areas where there just is no technology, and our hotspots will not reach in their areas.
Can I also ask, in the future when we get this, could we really have it broken down by the stakeholder group? Because when I look at this and you don't know 20% mobile hotspots, are there teachers who need internet access? Are they parents, they students? It would be, all of the rest of these slides would be much more meaningful, I think, if they could be broken down into the parent group and the teacher group and the student group. And then we could really sort of see what is what for each group. This way it's hard to know who these people are.
Yes.
I think you also have the challenge that probably parents and students both filled it out. So if they're saying in a hotspot, then you have like kind of double votes.
You could. We also with teachers, we're finding in our district that we are coming up against our own bandwidth. So we're actually increasing that and increasing the funding that we're finding that our own internet, because there are so many people on it, is starting to drop and be slow. So we're increasing that, I believe, in the next 2 weeks. And you know, the hope is that, as we all know, we're hoping that teachers are working from the school site, and they need to have reliable internet from the school site as well. So that is, we hope that when they come to the school site, which is where 75% of them are working from, that we have reliable internet. So, and most of the time it is, but we are finding certain times of the day where it gets really slow. So we're working on that too.
Okay, so the next section here are the questions that were asked around academic needs. And I'm gonna, as I go through the slides, I've gotten that folks would like it broken down by the parent, teacher, student, but if there's any other breakdowns, you know, please let me know as we're going through. So again, this one is a % of somewhat and very satisfied, and you can see the virtual office hours, we're at 70%, but the access to tutoring, to one-to-one tutoring, and understanding that that's an area that we want to work on getting more outreach toward everybody, because I looked at those and that should be higher, because everybody should know how to have access to the tutoring.
Megan?
Katie, I don't mean to belabor this, because I mean, Trustee Mulgar brought this up and so did Trustee Fernandez, but have you seen this broken down by subgroups and looked at it that way? Because have you personally done that, Katie?
So we got this data last week on a dashboard, and then we had to learn how to do the dashboard, and then we had to get the presentation ready. So we can do that. We just had some instructions of how to do that. So that's why I'm sort of asking you. And I can go through the slides faster, but yes, we can do it. We just weren't ready to do it.
And I think the reason I was asking you if you've looked at it, and I understand that you know, it's new and you're just figuring it out and you wanted to get the presentation here, but having the stakeholder groups mixed together, I'm hesitant to even draw conclusions, because I know in my own, you know, children have said to me, well, I didn't want to hurt someone's feelings. And I know that my 6th grader, 7th grader reading this would not, I don't even know if she would know what a lot of this meant. So I guess my thought is it's really would be critical to look at the students' responses very differently than you would look at the parents and the teachers. So I guess looking at it to myself, I'm a little bit hesitant to draw conclusions that it's possible that parents are totally aware of one-on-one tutoring, which is mostly what we would care about, right? And if all the teachers know about it and none of the parents, then that would be important to know as well.
Yeah, so we'll break it down. We will definitely break it down by group.
Okay.
So the next question was regarding academic expectations and policies. And this one is is a conglomeration. And then this question is staff only. When the survey goes out, it is a staff only question. And so one of the areas that we really want to look at is sample online lesson plans. And part of our math professional development, as it's coming up, we have additional bridges support, is really looking at how to develop a good lesson online. So we're hoping that will also help address some of that. So, but that's something that I was surprised, that data point came up. Then this one is a group response. And again, this one is statements about academic guidance, responding to student work, having clearly communicated expectations, and providing enough guidance to continue learning at home. The next one is around academic supports. And you can see the first one's around supplies, tutoring, and then college counseling.
By the way, just a shout out to Ukiah High. They have done a lot recently. They just had a college and career fair this week. Students had the opportunity to sign up and speak with various employers and college admissions. So I believe that happened on Tuesday. And so we're excited about that. Ukiah also is doing Career Month in October. So I don't know if you saw our Facebook post. One of the first videos that was made was from the Marin County Sheriff's Office, and the different careers in the Marin County Sheriff's Office or Mendocino County Sheriff's Office. And so anyway, we're excited about some of that work that's still happening.
So then there were questions regarding social emotional health. So there's 6 questions. And what are the overall perceptions of the following: my child's health, physical health, and emotional health? And so this question you can see is lower, is the social emotional. And I think we see that throughout the data.
And that one is broken down, right, Katie? Not the physical part, but the social emotional well-being in the pulse survey.
Yes.
It's broken down by parents.
And it's an area that everybody marked as an area of need.
But this particular slide, Superintendent Cuban, is a mixed response.
It is, yes. It has the physical health on there, which doesn't have that. This is like just more diving into the social emotional needs. The survey does anyway, but this is a summary of all groups.
The next question is staff, and this is a staff only question. And you can see what are my overall perceptions of the following. So my physical health was at 59% and my emotional and well-being. So
that's like a real percent to be feeling good. And I know we haven't done this exact survey before, but in the staff survey, and then maybe this is sensitive because they were different instruments, but Deb, in the staff surveys you've done in the past, did they ask that basic question, emotional health, do you know?
I don't think we did, but it did come up last year when we were working on our strategic plan. It came up a lot about the social emotional well-being of the staff. And this number is really concerning to me. And, you know, I think it's something that we definitely need to talk about in terms of what we can do more to support the social emotional well-being of their staff. I know Grace Hanson, Frank Zeke right now is doing a staff wellness focus. And I know Grace Hudson just put out a fall wellness activity chart for staff to participate in. So it is a very stressful time. Absolutely. I think we all feel it, parents feel it, but you know, this is a huge impact on our staff. And this number is very concerning, and I really want to talk more about what else we can do.
Are you seeing a course? I'm pretty sure the district finally has an EAP program, an employee assistance program, I think. Are you seeing a corresponding increase in use of that program?
I haven't looked at that, but we should definitely look at that. We have put it out to the staff for sure. You know, we're also really trying to, as a strategy, celebrate all the good work that's going on. It's really hard for our staff. This is very different work. And I think celebrating that good work is important to the morale of the district, but I really want to look more at that. You know, we've had a lot of challenges, especially of late with COVID, smoke. You know, if you want to go out for a walk and it's horribly smoky out, that's very hard to do. We've had people evacuated, staff, employees evacuated. So it's a really tremendously stressful time.
Okay, Katie.
So here is another staff only question around how satisfied are you with staff to receive peer support, professional development that focuses on recognizing mental health struggles, SEL resources.
That's social emotional learning. SEL is social emotional learning.
And professional development that focuses on promoting well-being. So again, kind of looking at that big picture is that this is an area that staff feel like they need professional development and support on as well.
Well, are they saying they want more professional development on that? Or are they saying they're not satisfied with professional development on it? I mean, to me, I wouldn't necessarily draw the conclusion that they want more training on recognizing mental health struggles. They might just want solutions to mental health struggles that may not involve going to another training.
Yeah, you're right.
You're right. That's
no.
Yep. Yeah, I would be careful not to say, oh, we must be needing to do more of that. They might be saying what you're giving us is not really that helpful and we don't want more of it. We want something else. Sorry, that was a little blunt, but.
Duly noted.
Thank you. Here, this question talks about where you disagree or agree with a statement. And so, you know, I feel strongly that my teacher cares about students, responds to students' concerns, and individually checks in with students. So again, we'll break this down by group so you can get a better view on what the different stakeholder groups feel on that topic.
Okay, thank you.
And then again, this is, please say how much you agree or disagree around social emotional support. And I have access to, my child has access to, and the top ones are counselor and medical health professionals, networking, crisis intervention, and medical staff. And I think this one's really important to also break down.
Mm-hmm. And also in terms of free and reduced lunch.
And then this question asks, are students having regular online interactions with other students? And we'll break that one down as well, but it's just kind of looking at, are they interacting online? And
That's slower, even all lumped down together, which I think, you know, mutes it, but I'm surprised that's as low as it is.
Mm-hmm.
I was as well, because I see a lot of interaction online. So
do I.
I'm not sure if people read that differently. You know, more like, are they doing maybe a social event or something? Not sure.
Right.
So our next steps around the survey, definitely looking at the pulse survey, those areas of need were around the social, emotional was the highest, diving a little deeper into the academic needs, and then also looking at communication from the student perspective, because that was higher than the other two groups. And again, to analyze further by stakeholder and subgroup, and we'll do that by free and reduced as well. We also, our next step is, of course, we want to share with staff and school sites so they can look at their individual data to look at how they can improve, and then start responding to areas of need, some of them including some professional development.
Does the board have any questions, comments? I know some of them, you'll hold some of those comments until you see a more in-depth breakdown of the data.
Katie, you may have said this in the beginning of the presentation because I was having technical difficulties, but when do we do this again? Isn't this a series? Am I right?
So yes, we'll be in a couple weeks doing the next, what they call the pulse survey, which are the first 2 slides, and it's just shortened and truncated. So we have it scheduled currently for 2 more times, and then we wanted to, depending on what model we're in, then we wanted to look at where we would do that. So we only have 2 scheduled right now.
Megan, the more comprehensive one is scheduled for January.
In the optimistic hope that it would also reflect an experience with hybrid learning? Like, is that what you mean?
It'd be in a different model.
Okay.
But
we don't want to do one more before we leave this model?
We will, but it'll just be the truncated pulse survey, the shorter survey.
Just the 2 questions.
Yes.
I mean, I guess some things are consistent, like social emotional health or whatever, right? It wouldn't necessarily be, you could kind of see progress or deterioration.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll get this broken down by stakeholder and free and reduced.
Before we move on from this report, I just want to thank the board for allocating funds for after-school in-person learning, not learning, but after-school in-person activities. We've got some of those starting up, and we're super excited about that. Katie, are you going to that now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how about I just talk about that? As Tom shared, we are working on getting some technology hubs going at as many school sites as possible. Those will be very small groups. We've put the guidelines out based on the California Department of Public Health guidelines and our local health order. We have one cohort at Ukiah High School. We've got one at Eagle Peak. We're starting the Pomalita pod and the Pomalita Oak Manor pod starting October 16th. So we're excited about that, to be able to provide more stable internet for some of our students. Katie, can you scroll forward? Also with our extracurricular groups, Ukiah High School has started some after-school sport fitness groups that are occurring, and Auto Shop they've handed out forms to students, and they will be starting soon. So we're excited about that. Pomalita started some volleyball conditioning, Mesa Robotics after school in-person science Olympiad. They have a newcomer club that has started up for English learners, English Learner Newcomer Club. And then SH after school, those are all occurring. And UISA is starting an elementary art after school program and homework help using the sibling project that Ukiah High School started. That is going. And then we've got South Valley High School kids and internships.
It's awesome.
We have a few challenges with in-person, and our staff, as you can even see by the data, is really tired. You know, they're super tired. So after school is challenging. And so we really appreciate staff members who are able to support the after school in person. But we do have, we also have staff members who are already doing virtual tutoring after school, so they're not available to do after school in person. We will be partnering with the city of Ukiah for our elementary after school in-person program. We are in the close to being final stages of the city of Ukiah helping us out with those, doing kind of expanding their fall safari program. And we're looking forward to that getting started. Part of our issue with in-person also is we're trying to run most of those outside. And as you know, the air quality has been horrendous. So it has slowed us down a bit from getting some things started. Pomalita is planning to have an English learner newcomer club at the Brush Street housing. So we're trying to get out into the community. Pomalita partnering with our elementary schools, really looking at those family-based programs. So even if a student is not a Nokomis student, but they're a Pomalita student, they have a sibling at Nokomis, we're looking at those family-based groups. And we're continuing to just try and expand that. And I really appreciate the board allocating funding for that to happen. And it is definitely a key to the social emotional well-being of our kids. So we're really looking forward to expanding those programs. Anne mentioned this in the beginning. We have reconvened our collaborative committee for school opening. We are open and we have been open, but that's what that committee was named. It was the opening for the 2021 school year originally. That group did an amazing amount of work in the spring and into the summer. And so we're just, we are looking at building off of that work and making any tweaks that might need to happen based on new state law, new public health guidelines. A lot has happened over the summer and into the fall. We've also learned a lot in the last 9 weeks about learning and with our distance learning program. So we are working on, that group has met twice now. We are reconvening our instructional models working group and our human resources working group. We have classified employees, certificated employees, and administrators working on those groups. We will be doing another survey of staff and parents and guardians regarding what they hope for in an instructional model in the future. And MCOE, Mendocino County Office of Education, just put out guidelines that have been approved by the public health officer that takes the 4 tiers for reopening and links them with instructional models. So Katie, there's a link in this presentation. And I'll send that out to the board as well. But we are currently in the purple widespread for COVID based on our numbers. And that means we need to primarily have distance learning, although we are able to do some small groups for special needs students with special needs. And when we go to the red, MCOE's guidance shows that with the red, we can move to a hybrid model. And that process takes about a month. We need to have stable data in the red for 2 weeks and then maintain it for an additional 2 weeks. So we are starting to have those conversations and we're excited about that. We will be bringing revised plans to the board on the November 12th board meeting. So we appreciate everybody who's working on that committee. And we look forward to just making some minor tweaks to those documents that we created over the summer.
Great, thank you.
Katie?
And we just want to have any questions that you have, and thank you for your support.
Well, you know, one thing I meant to say, and I hope Jensen Henderson is still on or watching, is that I forgot to say when she was speaking that I've had probably in the last week, I've probably had 5 parents come up to me and say how much they appreciate teachers' extra effort, and that it's a completely new experience from the remote learning that they had in the spring to really conscientious and more developed curricula with the distance learning now. And so that was great news to hear. And I think some other board members have heard that same message.
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, look, they're raising their hands. They also heard it. Good, good. Yeah, it makes a difference when you can prepare. Goodness.
Raising my hand to talk, Ann, though, too.
Oh,
I am.
well, I was just thinking that you were reinforcing what I was saying.
I am, but I wanted to
say.
say it myself, but I have had some really good feedback from parents recently that have talked about, you know, they still say the distance learning is incredibly difficult for their kids,
Yeah.
and they want to be back in person, but they've really been amazed at the difference and the quality and the effort that teachers are putting in. So I'm pretty consistently hearing that. It's an interesting thing. Teachers are doing super awesome. We totally appreciate them. I can't wait to get my kids back in school. Like,
yeah. Trustee Fernandez?
Yeah, I've heard the same thing as well. I've heard a lot of positive things about the teachers and how well they're doing, and just the format is difficult. But so thank you for that. I really appreciate all the work that everyone is doing. When we have this report next month, I think I asked this last month, could we have attendance included in there? And since Mr. Rawls brought up the work completion, which I wasn't aware was being carefully tracked as well, if it's not too much of a problem, is it possible to sort of show, you know, elementary work completion over time, so we can sort of see if kids are hanging in there or if they're dropping off?
I will have to see how hard that is to the completion to pull, and I'll find out and let Deb know so she can communicate that.
If it's a lot of work, don't include it.
And yes, we're finishing up our first quarter here, so we'll pull attendance data and get that to you.
Thank you. Superintendent?
Just apologies on forgetting that. I know you requested it at the last meeting, and we've got a note to make sure that we don't forget that next time. And I forgot to add, we did talk about classroom visits, and I also want to give a ton of gratitude to our teachers. I have visited many classrooms so far, and I really appreciate our teachers welcoming me into their classrooms. And I want to thank our board members are now joining me on visits to classrooms, and it's really amazing, both seeing the incredible work that our teachers are doing and also the challenges that they face with, you know, kids dropping off for internet and everything else that goes on. But they're I almost am overcome with emotion when I visit a teacher's classroom. When you see 24 kindergartners on a Zoom with their teacher and add in there, I'm teaching in Spanish, and kids are twirling around in their chairs, and it's pretty amazing. And you also see parents in there trying to, you know, guide their young children in their learning. So it is definitely a Herculean effort, and I really appreciate it. And it's been so much fun visiting our classrooms.
Do we have any parents who have been disrespectful or disruptive? And actually, I'm sure you have. Does the principal handle that, I hope, for the teacher?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we've, you know, sometimes parents forget that their student is on a Zoom call, and they may say things in the background that are not so appropriate to students. So we have all sorts of things we've been dealing with. We've dealt with Zoom bombing, and
Right.
that's really a challenge. And yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I would just hope that after a long day, a teacher doesn't have to always be calling the parents. Sometimes it's better to bring in the big guns just to kind of hit adults upside the head a little bit, metaphorically, figuratively.
Deb,
Any other questions? Go ahead, Katie.
I just wanted to say too, I got to participate in Pomalita's back to school night and it was fabulous. It was really nicely put together, and it was a fun time. So it was like, how do you do back to school night, distance learning? And it was really impressive. So I want to thank Comida for their efforts.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. So that was our distance learning update, and we will now move to our acceptance of the 2021 strategic plan first quarter progress report. It is your colored document. And I'm not sure that during this meeting tonight, we want to spend a lot of time on this particular thing. We're glad that you've made as much progress as you have, considering that you had double the workload to also be working on all these items, plus leading the district in distance learning. Is there any particular comment or anything you want to draw our attention to, Superintendent?
Yes, thank you for acknowledging all of that work. First of all, I want to say thank you to the board and to the group that worked so hard on this last year. It is a very much a shorter document. In fact, when I went to populate my part, I thought, where's the rest of this? Because our old plan was like 39 pages, something like that. So I appreciate having a shorter, more focused plan. I wish that we were only doing that plan and not all of our distance learning work that we're also doing. I think what I wanted to highlight mostly was the equity goal, which is goal 3. And we have identified the people who will be serving on our equity task force. We will have, we're pulling together a lot of data for that group. Hanover Research is working with us on that. We will have a meeting in November, a 1-hour meeting to start. We will have another meeting in December. Usually they do a day-long workshop, and under the virtual environment, it doesn't work very well to keep people online for 8 hours in a workshop. So we will be breaking that workshop up over 3 different sections in January and February. And our goal is to finish off that work with all of the recommendations by April. So our original goal was to get that to you by January, all the recommendations. And we are a little bit delayed, mostly due to distance learning and needing to pull all of the data that's required for us to have a data generated discussion. So next week, we will be emailing all of the committee members a welcome to the Equity Task Force. And they will be participating in a survey to assess their knowledge of equity. And that will help us design, that will help Hanover design the workshop that we will be having in January. So we're excited for that work. Our staff and community have been very excited for that work. And we will be getting going very shortly. For those people, we have about 52 people on that task force. And there were more people who wanted to be involved. And I'll just say to those people who are not on the task force, there will be plenty of opportunity with this conversation at your school site. There is a school site component of this work as well. So, so anyway, we're excited that there's so much enthusiasm for this, and we look forward to doing this work this year. I wish we could do it in person, especially with this topic. It is much better in person, but we cannot delay anymore getting this work started.
Trustee Van Sant?
As one of the board members on this equity task force, which I'm really looking forward to, Deb, do you think I could have the opportunity to talk to the facilitator ahead of time? I'm really glad it's being facilitated, but I would love to just hear more about what their vision is.
We're happy to have you join one of our planning sessions with them. We've had one already. They will be facilitating it based on the knowledge level of the participants.
Yeah, I just feel like this is a complicated, you know, and I just, so that I don't cause trouble in the future, it'd be better for me to understand how it's going.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You know yourself well. Great. And then our other board representative is Mr. Jose Diaz, who is also on that committee. Any questions about the strategic plan first quarter progress report?
And again, there's a lot in there. I just really wanted to highlight that section for the board. And I want to thank our amazing Ed Services team under the leadership of Katie. They have been very stretched, very, very stretched thin. And just want to thank Katie and her team and all of our administrators. I know we talked about teachers during the distance learning work, and our administrators are working really hard at their school sites to bring some sort of normalcy that they can pull in. Pomalita did school pictures this week, and we did a Student of the Month ceremony virtual last night. And so we're just trying to keep people up and engaged so that when we do go back to in-person learning, you know, we continue to try to give people a sense of hope.
Thank you. All right, D3, update on learning loss mitigation and elementary and secondary emergency relief fund budgets.
Hi, good evening,
Steve?
everyone. Hello, and if I could share my screen, I will bring the presentation up here. Let's see. All right, can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, again, if you have questions, since I can't see everybody, please shout out and we'll go from there. So you've seen the slide a few times now, kind of gives you an overview of the various pots of money we have from the state and from the federal government to help us with our pandemic relief. One piece of good news is the fourth item down on the funding string here, the State General Fund Proposition 98 money that was due to be spent by December 30th of this year. And just recently, as part of the final budget cleanup amendment, they've given us till June 30th of 2021 to spend that. They've given us 6 more months, which is very helpful. As you know, that means we still have $5.5 million to spend by December 30th. That deadline has not changed yet. That is federal money. The state has a provision in the budget language that says if the federal government gives the state permission to extend this money, the state will automatically extend it. But as of right now, that has not happened. So we're still under the gun to get this $5.5 million spent by December 30th. Going on to the expenses, the last couple months we had gotten pretty detailed with you. We had taken you down pretty deep into the weeds, some $4,000 budget line items out of a $5.5 million budget. So we met with President Mulgard, and she suggested that maybe we could bring it up to a little bit higher level, but then talk about what's been spent and encumbered so far and what money is still remaining. Obviously, trying to get this much money spent by December 30th is going to be a big push. So you can see here, this first slide is just the coronavirus relief funds. This is the $5.5 million that has to be spent by December 30th. The 2 new columns on the right show you how much has been spent and encumbered so far and what balance is still remaining. This is as of September 30th. So I can promise you these numbers have already changed pretty dramatically as we are getting purchase orders in place and spending other money. One other nice thing that came from the Budget Amendment Act was that we can now move some other expenditures into this money that we could not before, including our PPE, things like our air scrubbers, all of our response to personal protective equipment, things like that. All of those costs are now eligible to be spent out of these funds, whereas before they weren't. So that will definitely help us ensure that we get this money spent by December 30th, plus free up some of this longer term money to use down the road. So from there, you can just see by category, food service, technology, staff and student support, or curriculum and instruction and professional development, what's been allocated so far, and again, what's been spent and encumbered and what's still remaining.
So is the, on the staff and student support, it's like looks small on my screen, so I'm kind of like looking really closely. Do you anticipate that it's going to be that same rate of use? Because I mean, 8% of $1.8 million is not much.
Yeah, some of that we're going to be reevaluating. Time is getting short. Counseling has not maybe taken off quite like we thought it would, nor has tutorials. We're finding that that students and staff are not wanting to get back on a Zoom call after school to do more work. And things like that. So the spending has not been as aggressive or as we thought it might be, but we will keep an eye on that. We'll also start reallocating some of these funds to some other purposes, I think. we'll be bringing that, back with you next month as well.
Do you have any of those changes for tonight that you need us to approve?
I don't think so. I think there was nothing major that we've really done in the last month. Katie,
You're
if you can
still
think of
probably
anything.
trying to figure out how it's gonna flesh out.
Some money is shifted, like there is some money for board reserve. You see that number is different than it was last month. As we budgeted certain items and the expenditures have come in less, we've taken that balance and put it into board reserve. We did take some board reserve out to buy the equipment for the teachers last month that we talked about. So those things are actually ongoing. But so by and large, there's not any really major budget swings just yet.
Steve, I don't know if you've shared this yet, but in the trailer bill for the budget, California approved extending the deadline if the federal government extends it. And then I also heard that we're able to fund PPE out of this fund as approved through that trailer bill. So we may want to look at shifting some of the PPE funding out of another pot of one of these other pots of money into this one so that it frees up the money that has a later deadline.
And yes, we'll definitely do that. So the question is when do we do that? Do we wait till we get closer to December 30th and see how much money we still have unspent? Or do we go ahead and do that now, knowing that we could shift it back if we had to? I think we'd like to go another few weeks before we start moving too much other expenses that have already occurred back into this money. We'll be meeting with all the site administrators and department managers on first interim budget adjustments, and we'll be talking about these funds over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So that'll give us a little better indication of where we stand as well.
Great.
Okay, so that's the coronavirus relief funds pot of money. That is the December 30th piece. The next piece still says December 30th, but that's because it didn't get changed to say June 30th of 21 yet. This is the $536,000 money from the state budget. And again, we've only spent 4% of that so far. And again, that's money that's possibly, those expenditures could get moved as we get closer to the December 30th deadline. We'll keep an eye on that. The next pot are the gear funds. Again, kind of the same thing. We have spent a large majority of this money, but these funds could be moved back into that other fund if need be to free up this money. Since this money has a much longer shelf life, this money is good through September 30th of 2022. So it's not a lot of money, but if we can keep it available for other responses as we go forward, that's what we'll do.
Steve, this is such an odd situation. I know you've referred to this before, like this is not your typical situation as a chief business official in a school district. Are we unusual, or is this happening to schools across the state? Are your peers talking about like this is an odd situation to be in with a bunch of money that needs to be spent super quickly and close schools, so everything is different in terms of what your needs are?
Yeah, anecdotally, I don't know if everybody's struggling to the same degree we are getting these monies spent. My guess is a lot of them are, just because it's a lot of money at once. And there were very tight strings on this money at first, and those strings are loosening, which will definitely help. We're also finally getting the reports we have to give to the state, which helps us understand what is and what isn't allowed, because there was some gray area in some of these things as well. Superintendent Cuban?
And Trustee Van Sant, I'll just add that it's talked about every week in my statewide superintendent's meeting. And now we have this reporting that's due to the state, and the state is concerned about it because obviously none of us want to give back funding. And so, so it is a concern. It is a statewide concern for sure that I hear among superintendents and in my weekly AXA meetings. We are not alone.
It's just such a strange situation to be in this middle of this pandemic.
I think that whatever we can do to preserve our other funds, because when we go back, we're going to need more. I was thinking about summer school. We should run a full summer session because we will have some kids who have lost a lot of learning. So whatever we can do to legally spend funds out of our money that's due by December to be spent and free up funding that will take us into a time where we are more in person, I think we should absolutely do.
Summer school is a very good point. Even considering, all right, I know this would have to be negotiated, but even considering closing for 2 weeks in December and adding those on to the end would, according to the virus, probably be a smarter thing to do.
You know, we usually have limited service in summer, and I think we should probably cost out. What would it take to run a full summer program?
Mm-hmm.
We usually run 4 weeks. How can we get 6 to 7 weeks? I know we're going to be doing some construction this summer too, Mr. Barrickman, but how can we run a more robust, can we run a spring break program?
Mm-hmm.
I know our staff is tired, but can we run you know, a week-long program over in April if we're back in person?
Deb, why couldn't we encumber that money for that now, saying it's clearly pandemic related? That's not something you could say. I mean, it's no, you're obviously saying no.
It has to be spent, and if we're buying desks and technology and that sort of thing, it has to be ordered, maybe not received by the end of December. So, but I'm thinking like if we're able to pay for personal protective equipment out of the $5 million, and we've got it earmarked in another area, we should look at moving it, especially because what we've allocated so far related to counseling support and tutoring, I don't think we will fully expend that money by December. And so we should be thinking about that. So we'll play around with that a little bit more by the November board meeting. But we should be preserving this as we roll back to school in person, because we know we will have more needs.
Can we order more outdoor furniture?
Yes.
New picnic tables, things like that?
Absolutely, that has been requested. We are moving forward with that.
We should have beautiful picnic tables everywhere.
Yes, Steve and I just spoke about that, actually, I think last week.
Now we have more shade because of the solar.
We might need even more shade.
We might.
Mm-hmm. More solar. Really expensive shades.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So the trick is, yeah, we will not send money back. It may take some creative accounting, and fortunately, we're getting more freedom to do just that. We will make sure this money gets spent and appropriately. We will do the best we can for our kids and our staff. Obviously, we're not going to spend it frivolously, but there's enough things we do that we can shift to this money that we will if we need to.
Great.
$1 million a week between now and December.
It's kind of how it feels sometimes. But,
we also have the need going forward for more Chromebooks eventually, so we might want to pre-order them now.
Right.
So, yes. Okay, Steve, sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. The last couple pages, there's the last couple pots of money. And again, you can just kind of see where we are with spending. And again, pretty much all of these purchases are now eligible to shift back to that other fund if need be. So we can definitely look at that. And as Superintendent Cuban indicated a couple minutes ago, we can place orders for equipment, and it doesn't have to come in if it's back ordered, but it has to be truly back ordered. If we order something now and it's back ordered and doesn't come in, that's okay. If we order it in December knowing it's back ordered, that's not allowable. It's crazy, just the different hoops and hurdles that we still have to jump through with all of this. But we're on top of it, and we will do what we have to do.
Is there any need for us to send a letter to either our representatives of the state or Congressman Huffman or anything?
I'll ask that question, Ann. Not the state, because the state is already in the trailer bill approved the extension of the $5 million funds. But that's a federal fund, so it would take federal action to extend that deadline.
Okay, we'll see if maybe all the school boards need to, send that letter along with Axe's letter. Thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay, thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you.
Progress, spending money, that is amazing. Now back to Katie Summer for our mathematics placement report for the 2021 school year.
And I'll just do a quick intro on this. Some of the metrics that we usually look at are a little hard because we obviously didn't take the SBAC in the spring. So Katie will, I know you've seen this report. Katie will hit a few highlights of this report and ask if there are any questions. We will definitely be looking at a lot of this data through the Equity Committee as well, diving deeper into it. So Katie, do you want to hit a few of the highlights of this report?
Sure. So as Deb shared, there is, you know, obviously this is an interesting year that we've had. And one of the big highlights that we did want to share was that the high school went to a block schedule. And prior to that, the high school had decided to, we had had a course called pre-algebra, and they actually decided to do a 2-year algebra 1A, 1B. That was discussed in December, and then we went into distance learning, and then we went through a block. But one of the benefits of the new course is that it's algebra 1A, 1B. And in the block schedule, a student can finish their algebra 1 requirement within a year, but they get additional time and support because of the block schedule. So, and that also helps those students stay on track. So one thing that we need to do this year is to update our course pathways to reflect that new course. And so the data will look slightly different than we've done before. And again, how Deb stated, through our placement process, the SBAC results were not there. So we did use older SBAC results. And then it, because we had given the PSAT to all 8th graders, we also used that data to help guide us with placement. So that worked out really well as another piece of data. And then looking at our enrollment in courses, here is the new course 1A, 1B. And you can see we've had a slight increase in our algebra 1. That would be completing it in a term, the first term. Our geometry was slightly down. You can see algebra 2 is about, that's a tiny number of students. But what you can see is we're pretty much flat. About 55% of our students are in the traditional algebra 1 or higher. But when you incorporate the algebra 1A and 1B, currently we have 92% of our students that have the opportunity to complete algebra 1 in the first year. And then looking at, normally we have a chart like this. The column here, 2021, is showing algebra 1 and above. And the column over here in 2021, 1A or 1B and above, so that would include, you can see that we have much higher numbers of students that have the opportunity to complete the algebra 1. Some of our, when you look at just the algebra, some of our groups are kind of flat or slightly down. And one of the groups that we want to look at is our RFEP group, just in terms of typically that group is a little bit higher in algebra 1 course taking.
And remember that RFEP is redesignated fluent English proficient. So these are kids who were at one point English learners.
This just breaks that down by courses. And one area I wanted to highlight was the percent of Native American students has increased significantly in algebra 1. That is a smaller subgroup, but when we look across algebra 1 and geometry, that is an increase, and we're happy to see that. That's an area we've been working on. Some of just looking again, we've kind of highlighted that, you know, we have a much higher percentage of students that will be able to complete algebra 1 in 1 year. And Hispanic Latino students are placed at a slightly lower rate than other groups. But the more significant is that our EL and special ed are still enrolled at not as at higher rates. So they're not accessing the 1A, 1B is at such a high rate. And here again, we talked about the percent of Native American students in Algebra 1 increasing, and that we have some other groups that are placed in Algebra 1 and geometry classes at lower rates. But when we look at the 1A, 1B, then we have some higher rates. So we think that's a good solution, the 1A, 1B, having students have better access to Algebra 1. And so our next steps, because this is new this year, at midterm, we want to analyze our grades in Algebra 1A and 1B and look at the progress of students. And then we'll also review our math enrollment data at the beginning of the spring term or semester. We will be looking at reviewing and revising our course pathways. We are continuing to provide math support classes that started last year. And then we'll look at our placement process again. We probably, we are supposed to still take the SBAC this year. But there are a lot of unknowns about the data that we'll be receiving. So we'll take a look at our placement process early in January. Does anyone have any questions?
I can't see the board members because you're sharing your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So just speak up.
I was just wondering, I think that's great with the high school being able to do that algebra A, B, or whatever you call it. I think that's great with the block scheduling, allow for more time. Do you know other schools that do the block scheduling, how the traditional math classes, like let's say Algebra 2, that now the kids will be doing in one semester, are kids as successful? I mean, it seems like taking a year worth of math and cramming it into one semester would be incredibly challenging. And I'm just wondering, I know the block schedule is pretty common. Is that an issue, or have other schools found that that's not an issue?
I think it's a challenge for some students. I do know that typically schools, once they start getting routined and used to doing the block schedules, that they improve over time. The other thing, looking at other schools, is that many block schedules do offer A/B courses, so that students who do need additional support have that access. So because it's challenging,
Yeah,
and we already know that math is a challenge area for us as well.
Okay.
Is it possible then that, oh, I'm sorry, are you still talking?
I just said gracias.
Okay. Are you thinking about doing geometry AB as well?
So that's something I'll get back to and talk to the high school about that. I asked that question today, and I'm not sure where they're at with that, and also with the block scheduling. So there's a lot to kind of work out with that. But I do feel like looking at the support that can be provided in the block is a real benefit to block scheduling, because you really have more periods to work with of time.
It just results in more minutes.
Energy efficiency at its finest.
At its finest. Any questions about the math placement or the math program? Okay, thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you.
We'd now like to open our public hearing. Resolution number 9, 2021, regarding the sufficiency and insufficiency of instructional materials.
Yes, we bring this to you every year. We are showing sufficiency.
Is there any public comment received on this item? Hearing none. Hearing none, I have closed the public hearing. And the chair will entertain a motion.
I move approval of the report.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any questions about the sufficiency, insufficiency? The attachment is there in your materials. Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes. The resolution passes. Thank you. We'll now have a public hearing on the action to convey an easement to the city of Ukiah for public utility infrastructure purposes near the property line of UUSD Transportation Yard. We discussed this briefly at the last meeting, so we will now hereby open the public hearing. Mr. Berrickman?
Great. So this is the second step in the two-step process to convey an easement to the city of Ukiah to do some electrical upgrades for us at the bus yard that will then allow us to take advantage of the state grants we've received to set up more electric vehicle charging stations. We have a very large fleet of buses and growing that are electrical, and we just need the extra infrastructure to keep them charged up and running happily.
Excellent. Have we received any public comment on this public hearing resolution number 2?
We have not.
Okay, thank you. Hearing none, are there any further questions? If not, we would entertain a motion to pass resolution number 2 to convey an easement.
I so move.
Thank you, Trustee Arkin.
Yes, with one correction.
Please.
My name is misspelled. My first name is misspelled at the end. That's all. So
Is there a second to the motion as presented with the correction of spelling Trustee Arkin's name?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Trustee Diaz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Great. Thank
don't
you, and
wanna
our
keep-
apologies.
Don't want to keep blowing the fuse box at the transportation yard. The next many items besides E4 and E5 that we pulled, E2 to E18, are first readings. We can walk through them if you like, but you received them in your packet. And so I think I'd prefer to simply take any individual questions that we have on any of these. Okay, then we will have those available at our next meeting for approval and second reading. Moving to parent and community partnership, Superintendent, do you have any report for us in addition to the weekly articles that you send us, for which we are appreciative?
I don't think I have much beyond what we've already reported in our reports in this board agenda. I do want to say thank you to our student who called in today and spoke. It is so good. I love hearing from students. It makes me so happy to be able to hear student voices, and it's awfully brave of that young person to call into a board meeting, and would love to hear from more students. It was just lovely to hear. I find myself just finding so much joy when I get to actually interact with people in person when I go to a school site. I called Principal Barrett today just with such gratitude for all that I think about, like, the little things in life that we sometimes have taken for granted, like school pictures being one of those. And I saw a parent post on Facebook about how excited her student was to actually get to be able to take her school picture this year. It's just those small little things that that take a lot of effort now, that didn't used to take as much effort. And I'm really grateful for those small little things that our school sites are doing. Ukiah sent postcards out to their students recently, and I'm going to get a little emotional right now, having attended the memorial service of one of our students on Sunday. I just want to say to everybody, hold those kiddos close. I found such pleasure and joy watching that particular student run up and down the basketball court, on the softball field. such a kind human being, and we just all need to love each other and hold each other close, because sometimes life is very short. So thank you to the board for all that you do. I know it's not an easy job. And to all the parents out there struggling, sorry, I'm making you all get emotional too. To all the parents out there struggling, we'll get back there soon. Just keep holding out hope and being a wonderful supportive community. So I think that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Board members, anything to report for the good of the order?
Yes, I have some.
Please.
Okay. We had our first bond facilitation meeting, a bond facilities meeting with Steve, and there was a lot, and basically it was to start off with a purpose for us. We wanted to then also prioritize, and Steve and his group were going to bring back to us the amount of different money situations, so we can kind of start getting going to see which direction we wanted to go. And the other thing was just putting all that together and get for the next meeting, which I think he thought would be in October. I'm not sure, Steve, but there was a nice amount of people here or wherever our Zoom is, and it sounded ready to go. These guys have been working very hard, and I was happy to be there, and Tyler was too, but right now he's busy. That was it.
Thank you. Thank you for participating. Trustee Van Sant?
Thank you, Bea, for doing that work. I appreciate that. I just wanted to give a shout out to the food services staff. In my other professional life, I had been working with the school district together with my team on connecting some students to school food delivery, and their super quick response was really amazing. And I know some of these families were really struggling in isolation and quarantine. So I just wanted to thank you, Deb, and please pass that on to your staff. That was really great to see how ready our district was and our food services was to support those families really quickly.
So just in case anybody is watching and can spread the word, if anybody is isolating or quarantined and they need food delivered, we can make that happen. So
if they have
5003.
Yeah, if they have children in their family, not student,
Correct.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Right. Sorry, seniors. But
there's other programs.
Any other board members like to share anything? Okay, then moving on to planning, I believe we need to set two. Oh, well, maybe we should actually do the consent agenda first, huh? All right, consent agenda. Nothing was pulled. So is there a motion to approve consent G1 through G21?
I move approval of consent G1 through G21.
Thank you. Is there a second? Trustee Barrett seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Now, I believe you wanted to set two meetings, one agenda planning and one the public hearing on the Sunel Charter. Okay.
Debbie,
agenda
proposed dates?
Agenda planning is scheduled for Wednesday, November 4th at 1:15.
Has Tyler done it lately, Ann?
No, he hasn't. We will assign him. I'm not sure that doesn't look like it is going to work for me. Actually, the entire day doesn't look like it's going to work for me though, unfortunately. Could we do Tuesday at 4 p.m.?
Who are you calling for? Who's doing this with you, Ann?
I'm assigning Tyler, so I'm not asking that. I'm actually asking Debbie Ornelas.
At what time, Anne?
4 p.m. That way I could give you the whole day since I'm asking you to move it up half a day.
That will work.
Okay, thank you. And then who else would like to join Tyler and me?
Me.
Jose, excellent. Okay, and what is the proposed date for the Sunel Charter?
We would like to do, Deb, I don't know if we would like to do October 22nd, which is a Thursday. And just a reminder about the process, we hold a public hearing, and then we have 90 days, the board has 90 days to approve or deny the charter. That gets us the beginning of January. We'll likely do it in December though. So
you just want the clock to start ticking?
We just, once we receive the charter, that's when the clock starts ticking. We'd like to hold the public hearing early so the board can hear about the charter. And then we will have 90 days from October. Deb, I can't remember the exact date they submitted the charter. 90 days from that day for the board to make a ruling on the charter.
Trustee Fernandez?
No, you answered the question.
Okay.
We'd like to have the public hearing on October 22nd.
Is there any board member who could not make Thursday, October 22nd at this point? Okay, then set 6:30 p.m. or?
Deb, we didn't talk about the timeline. We could do it earlier. We don't have closed session on that day. So if the board would like to do it at 5:30, that would be fine.
What's preference? First board member who speaks wins.
I'd rather 5:30.
5:30, and what do you want, Trustee Barrett? 5:30, okay, all right, done. 5:30 on Thursday, the 22nd. Thank you. Is there anything else? All right, thank you so much. This meeting is adjourned.